Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. So today we're going to go ahead and continue on our opinel edge tests, you know, the toothy versus polished series that I've been working on. The last one that we did was touching up these edges and then cutting paper. You know, I mean, everybody cuts paper, opening envelopes, cutting out, you know, ads in the traders or the newspaper, something like that, wrapping presents, well, you know, I mean, just normal cutting paper. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and continue that with some different types of cardboard. Now, I'm not really a big cardboard cutting fan. I know my buddy Cliff Stamp, he used to really like to cut cardboard. I mean, that dude would cut like miles and miles and miles of it. And I understand it's readily available. You know, typically you've already paid for it, so you don't have to, you know, pay more money for it, like, you know, like the coils of rope that I like to cut for edge retention tests. You know, but I just not really a big cardboard cutting fan. So we've got the three edges. We got the 325, the 6,000, and the 30,000. We've got a crunch and munch box. We got some light cardboard here, a light shipping box, and then we've got the chewy boxes that our dog food comes in, and we'll just go ahead and you know, spend some time cutting these. And then of course, you know, as I'm cutting, I'll kind of give you some you know, whatever feedback I'm feeling on the knife, and then I suppose maybe, you know, we'll cut some paper afterwards to see how much edge is left. Cutting cardboard is really kind of dirty. You wouldn't think that it would be, but it's got an awful lot of trash in it, you know, like grit, you know, like sand and stuff like that. Anyway, so this is a crunch and munch box. We'll start off with the flaps here with the 325, and that's cutting just, I mean, you can feel that it's a nice aggressive cut, which is what I typically like. Yeah, now let's split this down the sides, and then we will cut each side up. Can you still see that? Yeah. Okay, now since that one opened it up, then we'll use the smaller sides for this one. And I'm not counting or anything, but that hitch at the last little bit that you're seeing, what that is where the box is folded over and there's two layers of it. Okay, that's a 325 grit edge. Here's the 6,000 grit edge. The 6,000 grit edge is smoother. Okay, it's not it's not ripping quite as much. Now the 325 grit edge, don't get me wrong, I mean it's still cutting, but it's kind of a ripping and tearing type of a cut, whereas this is less than that, which makes sense because, I mean, this is a finer tooth edge. Now the 30,000 grit edge, this edge has got pretty much no teeth at all. I mean, it's just a straight, just a plain, okay? And there's not hardly any teeth in this edge at all. But it is, it's cutting this cardboard really nice. And there is less aggression that I'm feeling on the edge. Okay, so that's the crunch and munch box. Now this cardboard here, it is, it's a corrugated cardboard, but it's very, very light, and it's pretty thin also. I mean, it's, oh, let's call that about 10 post-it notes in thickness. So let's take the 30,000 grit edge and use it to tear this box down. Okay, and then let's just grab 3 pieces that are about the same size here. That's the sides, so we'll do that for one. Okay, so the 30,000 grit edge, now that we got nice pieces. Okay, now the 6,000 grit edge. Yeah, none of these are feeling, I mean, besides my initial impressions, you know, which, you know, with the amount of teeth and everything, and none of them are slowing down at all. Well, let me take that back. The very fresh edge feeling is gone, but they're still cutting very, very well. Okay, now we've got the big chewy boxes here. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of chewy, and I don't own stock in them or anything, but chewy is a pretty cool outfit. No, we were going to use a 6,000 grit edge to tear this down. My wife sets it up to where they automatically send us dog food every, I think it was coming like every week, but then it was too much. And then I think now she's got it to where it comes like every 2 weeks or something like that. And she says that it's actually cheaper than buying it at you know, Walmart or Murdoch's or any place like that, and they deliver it to your door, which is pretty dang cool. I mean, I don't know how on earth that they would do that. I mean, because that's a big old freaking heavy box. I can't imagine it's cheap to ship that. Okay, so the 325 grit edge again. Now this cardboard is considerably thicker and heavier than the last cardboard. I mean, these sacks of dog food I think weigh at least 50 pounds a piece. They might be 60s or they're 40s, something around there. So I mean, it's a pretty heavy duty box. You know, so it's taken quite a bit more force to cut these. And that was just the handle thing. But the edge is still working really nice. Oh, you know what I should do is, okay, so that was with the grain. Now let's go against the grain. Well, let's go the same way. Because it's always tougher to go against the grain. You can tell I'm having to put a lot more force into the cuts with this heavier cardboard. Okay, so now let's go to 6,000 grit edge. And honestly, I can't tell if there's a difference in the amount of pressure that I'm having to put into these. Okay, so let's go about there, and then we can do our crossways cuts. The crossways cuts I have to put quite a bit more pressure into, maybe a third more than the with the grain cuts. Okay, and then now last the 30,000 grit edge. Now see that, it feels different than the other two. Oh, maybe it was just my hand getting used to the different edge. You know, that's one thing that's not talked about a whole lot. I mean, you guys know that I really like my coarse, aggressive edges. But honestly, I mean, our hands adapt so fast. You know, I mean, your hand adapts so fast. I mean, if you're used to one thing, you know, cutting with an aggressive edge, and then you get handed a knife that has no teeth in it at all, your hand will adapt within the first cut. Now, you might not like that edge all that well, but your hand will be able to use that edge to get whatever task you've got done. Now, at the end of that task, you might say, oh man, I don't really want to cut with that anymore. But your hand will find a way around it. Another thing is, my wife gets on to me about this all the time, and that's cutting towards myself, right? Now, in the Boy Scout books and everything, they say not to cut towards yourself. But this is one of those situations where, you know, I'm using my body structure to make sure that the cut is safe. Okay, so I'm cutting up here, and I'm not really pulling this hand down as much as I'm kind of spreading it out. Now see how that hand stops against my rib cage? So the whole cut is right up in here. So the hand stops here against my belly or my chest, and then, you know, there's that motion that finishes the cut. So, you know, once you get used to it, it's a very fast and a very controllable, you know, way to cut things. Yeah, so that's cutting up a whole bunch of cardboard. Now let's grab this this Trader's here. Let's try a double thickness first. Here's a 325. We've got a couple of rough spots in there, but not really anything too bad. I am seeing light reflect in just a couple of spots, but not very bad at all. I kind of doubt that it'll take hair off my arm. No, it's still scrape shaven. Okay, now the 6,000 grit edge. Actually, let's. Now this palm stropping right here, this isn't really so much to sharpen it as it is just to kind of to clean the fuzzies off so that I can see the steel. And see the same thing. I'm seeing a couple of glints of light here and there. And that's those catches that you're seeing. Okay, so as that edge comes down and it catches, like right there, and there was one right up in there that's not really showing up, right there. And this edge has got about the same. Now see this one. Now this one's getting the fuzzies. See those little fuzzies right there? They're all getting that fuzzies. Okay, so now let's go to a single thickness. That was a 30,000. This is a 6,000. And the 325. So they're all still cutting paper. Honestly, with this test, really I have a real hard time telling the difference in between the edges. This would be one of those that if you were to hand me a knife and say cut that box into pieces and then tell me what grit the edge was sharpened at, I don't think I'd be able to tell you. Okay, so the 325 is still scrape shaven. They might even be doing a little bit better than scrape shaving. I mean, the hairs aren't jumping off, but they are coming off. Now the 30,000 grit edge, it's having a tough time here. Yeah, that one is definitely scrape shaven. So, on that test, you know, honestly, I think you'd really have to be paying some pretty close attention to be able, you'd have to be paying really close attention, and you would have to really know your edge types, I think, to be able to tell a difference in between those three edges on just that amount of cutting of cardboard. You know, I don't think I could tell you which one was better at that one. I really don't, except for the, you know, and the fact that the polished edge wasn't shaving as easily at the end of the test honestly doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, this is one of those tests that you would have to average the data out at least several times. You know, in a rope cutting test, I've cut a lot of rope. You know, and spend a lot of time learning how to cut rope. And even with rope, if I'm like testing heat treats and I change something in the heat treat and I want to test it to see if it does better or worse than an edge retention test, pretty much I'll take two knives, you know, make them two different ways, or maybe two knives on each different way. Okay, sharpen up both of them, and then, you know, do the test once, write it all down, sharpen them up all again, do the test twice, write it all down, sharpen them up a third time, do the test, write it all down, and average out those 3 runs on 2 different knives each. And that would start giving me a pretty good idea of whether that change in the heat treat, you know, did what I thought it was doing. All right. Now that's with rope, and rope is fairly consistent, you know, inside the same lot. Okay, so if you buy a roll like I do of that manila rope from Home Depot, and it's like, I don't know, 250 foot, something like that, or 500. I don't know, it's been a while since I looked. But pretty much, I mean, within, you know, say 5 feet of it, that whole 5 feet is going to be fairly consistent within that 5 feet. Cardboard, on the other hand, it's, you know, it's a recycled material mostly, and, you know, it's got a lot of variance in it. So you would have to cut and sharpen, cut and sharpen, cut and sharpen at least 3 times to be able to get any kind of meaningful, you know, data like that. Now, you know, cutting once or twice, like in a, you know, an informal test like this, then yeah, I mean, it'll kind of give you some impressions. But to really, really get into it, you have to do it several times. So, you know, one of them scrape shaving and the other one shaving still okay. You know, you just take it with a grain of salt. Okay, so I think probably what I'll do is go, you know, it's still fairly early. Oh yeah, it's only 9:15. So I think what I'll do is go ahead and clean all this up, touch up the edges, and then I've got an old t-shirt and an old pair of jeans over here. I think we can roll those up and then put them on the board on the bathroom scale and do a little bit of cutting with those. So again, this is just kind of a fun, you know, comparison of 3 different edge finish grits with the same knife, and just kind of playing around in the shop a little bit. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. Again, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time.